Some people don't just own houseplants. They worry about them. They talk to them. They apologize when they forget to water them. They rearrange their entire living room because one plant didn't like the light there. Some even refer to them, half jokingly, half seriously, as their children. At first glance, this behavior seems exaggerated, maybe even a little absurd. After all, plants don't cry, they don't call, they don't ask questions. And yet, many people experience genuine emotional responses toward them. Pride when a new leaf appears, guilt when one wilts, and a surprising sense of loss when one dies. This isn't rare, and it isn't random. Psychologically, treating houseplants like children isn't about confusion or immaturity. It's about how the human mind expresses attachment, responsibility, and care when those instincts don't have a clear outlet. The plant becomes a focal point, not because it replaces something else, but because it fits perfectly into a specific emotional niche. Humans are wired to nurture. From an evolutionary standpoint, caring behaviors ensure survival of children, communities, and eventually culture. But nurturing isn't a switch that only turns on under specific circumstances. It exists whether or not there is a child, a partner, or a dependent present. When that instinct has no obvious target, it doesn't disappear. It looks for somewhere safe to land. Houseplants provide exactly that. They are alive, but quiet, dependent but undemanding, vulnerable but forgiving. They require care, but not emotional negotiation. From a psychological perspective, this makes them ideal recipients of caretaking energy. The mind recognizes something living and responds instinctively, even if the rational brain knows the plant doesn't need affection in a human sense. This is where behavior starts to resemble parenting. Naming plants isn't about believing they have personalities. It's about creating relational meaning. Once something has a name, the brain treats it differently. It becomes specific, individual, and worthy of attention. Talking to plants works the same way. The act isn't for the plant, it's for the person. Verbalizing care reinforces attachment and responsibility, much like narrating actions to a child does. There's also an element of projection. Humans often project emotional states onto non-human objects. We read moods into pets, weather, even inanimate things like cars or computers. With plants, this projection feels especially natural because their condition visibly changes in response to care. Leaves droop, colors fade, growth slows. The brain interprets these changes relationally, even if it knows better. Importantly, this behavior tends to intensify during periods of transition. People who move cities, live alone, delay major life milestones, or experience emotional overload often lean more heavily into plant care. Not because they are lacking something, but because they are seeking structure. Plants introduce routine. They need checking. They need consistency. That rhythm grounds the mind. Plants also allow people to practice responsibility without catastrophic consequences. Forgetting to water a plant feels bad, but not life-altering. Saving a struggling plant feels rewarding, but not overwhelming. This emotional calibration matters. It allows nurturing instincts to operate without triggering anxiety or fear of failure. This is why plant care often comes with language usually reserved for caregiving. She's dramatic. He's doing better now. This one's sensitive. The brain slips into relational patterns automatically, not because it's confused, but because relationship frameworks are deeply ingrained. When something relies on you to survive, the mind defaults to familiar scripts. There's also a sense of moral satisfaction involved. Caring for a plant feels inherently good. It aligns with values like patience, responsibility, and attentiveness. Unlike many modern responsibilities, plant care isn't judged by productivity or efficiency. It's judged by consistency. That makes it emotionally safer. Crucially, treating plants like children doesn't mean people think plants are children. It means they are engaging with a form of low-risk attachment. Plants don't reject you. They don't abandon you. They don't escalate conflict. The relationship is one-directional, predictable, and contained. That predictability is soothing in a world where many relationships feel complex, fragile, or uncertain. So when someone fusses over their plants, rearranges them daily, or feels oddly protective of them, they're not being dramatic. They're expressing a fundamental human behavior, attachment through care. The plant simply happens to be the most emotionally accessible, stable, and forgiving recipient available. By the time someone is talking to their fiddle-leaf fig about how good it is, it's no longer just a plant. It has become part of their identity. Treating a houseplant like a child is not only about care or control, it's about meaning, symbolism, and the subtle ways humans adapt to the challenges of modern life. At the heart of this behavior is the idea of surrogate attachment. Humans naturally seek emotional bonds. Traditional outlets, raising children, stable long-term relationships, or community ties can feel delayed, unpredictable, or inaccessible. Plants offer a contained version of connection. They allow a person to project affection, concern, and attention onto a living thing without the risk of rejection or complex social negotiation. In this sense, a plant isn't just alive, it's a safe receptacle for emotional investment. This surrogate attachment extends to identity formation. People who actively care for plants often internalize this behavior into self-concept. I am responsible, I am nurturing, or even I can sustain life. Unlike objects or decorative items, plants visibly respond to effort, reinforcing the connection between action and identity. Every healthy sprout or new leaf becomes evidence of competence and care. It's a quiet, ongoing affirmation that they can influence growth, a reminder that attention and patience yield tangible outcomes. Plants also carry symbolic meaning. They represent growth, patience, and stability. In a world characterized by fast digital interactions, fleeting trends, and uncertainty, plants embody processes that unfold at their own pace. The slow growth of a plant mirrors long-term personal development, something millennials and younger generations often navigate in delayed or non-linear ways. Watching a plant flourish can provide a symbolic reflection of one's own capacity for growth, resilience, and adaptation. The subconscious element is just as powerful. Many plant parents may not explicitly acknowledge that their attachment fills unmet psychological needs. Yet these behaviors reveal hidden desires for care, influence, and continuity. The careful adjustment of light, precise watering schedules, and gentle observation are subtle expressions of control over a small but meaningful domain of life. In environments that are otherwise unpredictable, economically, socially, or emotionally, plants provide a microcosm where effort produces reliable outcomes. The subconscious mind recognizes this and reinforces the behavior, making the attachment feel natural and rewarding. Interestingly, the anthropomorphization of plants, naming them, celebrating milestones, even apologizing when they're neglected, serves an adaptive psychological function. It strengthens emotional engagement and provides feedback loops that satisfy nurturing instincts. It is simultaneously a rehearsal for empathy and patience, and a way to safely explore attachment without the consequences of real-world interpersonal dynamics. This may explain why some plant parents express more intense reactions to the decline of a plant than one might expect. The symbolic weight of these small lives carries real emotional significance. Social reinforcement amplifies this pattern. The rise of plant culture on social media platforms, online communities, and lifestyle content normalizes treating plants as extensions of the self. Sharing plant care milestones or seeking advice online validates emotional investment and reinforces identity. Suddenly, the plant isn't only a private surrogate, it's part of a social identity. Being a plant parent becomes a badge of intentionality, care, and lifestyle alignment, creating a loop where personal meaning and social validation feed each other. Humorously, this identity is flexible. A person can display nurturing competence without real-world obligations. They can organize, manage, and influence growth in a domain that is forgiving, predictable, and portable. Unlike children or pets, plants don't argue, grow rebellious, or disrupt schedules. They are responsive but safe, embodying the exact qualities that allow the plant to symbolize personal care and emotional responsibility without overwhelming demands. The symbolic power of plants also extends to self-reflection and mindfulness. Caring for a living thing that evolves slowly encourages observation, presence, and patience. Individuals learn to anticipate, adjust, and respond. These small acts mirror life skills, awareness, responsibility, and adaptability. Plants act as mirrors, reflecting not only growth and change in the plant, but also the observer's capacity for consistency, attentiveness, and care. In summary, treating a houseplant like a child is a complex, multi-layered psychological phenomenon. It reflects surrogate attachment, nurturance, control, identity formation, symbolic meaning, and subconscious fulfillment of emotional needs. It is both adaptive and revealing. Plants provide a safe space for care, a mirror for personal growth, and a tangible expression of traits that humans value in themselves: responsibility, patience, empathy, and influence. This behavior demonstrates something profound. Humans do not require perfection, permanence, or reciprocity to create meaningful connections. Instead, they adapt, finding psychologically satisfying ways to fulfill nurturing, attachment, and identity needs in environments that are often unpredictable, transient, or emotionally complex. A plant, when treated like a child, becomes far more than decoration. It becomes a lens through which the person interacts with life, manages emotional energy, and practices care, all quietly and subtly, leaf by leaf. And perhaps that's why it resonates so deeply. The plant is not only alive, it is alive in sync with the human mind, flexible, responsive, symbolic, and enduring in its gentle way.